The one where Chandler crosses the line is the 7th episode of the 4th season of Friends. This one's directed by Kevin Bright, and there will be spoilers from now as I discuss what happens in this episode. Interestingly, despite the fact that I would say this is one of the most iconic episodes, maybe, at least from season 4, I don't have that much to say about it. And I guess that's because not a lot happens. There's a lot of repetition, by which I mean Ross plays his keyboard numerous times, and that's not to say it's very good, but compared to other episodes, there's not as much going on, but we do have some really important moments. And I have a question about something Phoebe sings, and this is going to really irritate me. If anybody has a concrete answer, I'd love to know, but I'll get there in a moment. I'll talk about Chandler and his part of the story second. I will address Phoebe and Ross first because I think that one's going to take up the least amount of time. But as I said, I don't have a tremendous amount to say, which is kind of unusual for a Friends discussion. So the question that I had, when Phoebe sings, is she singing Little Tiny Tarzan or Little Tony Tarzan? And the internet is divided. When I hear her, I hear Tony, but the subtitles on Netflix are Tiny. And I googled it, and a lot of places say Tony, a lot of places say Tiny. I couldn't find a copy of the actual script. If anybody has access to the original printed hard copy scripts, or indeed a scanned version of the script, please tell me if it's meant to be Tony or Tiny. Because on the one hand, I'm hearing Tony, half of the internet says Tony, but that doesn't make a lot of sense. But then it's Phoebe, so it doesn't have to make a lot of sense. So I really genuinely don't know. I'd love to know what you hear or what you think it is. But if anybody has access to the original script, not a script, a transcript, because obviously that's just somebody typing what they hear, but the original script, please let me know if it's meant to be Tony or Tiny, because I'm so confused. But it's a great song, nevertheless. And then Ross suggests she uses the Banama to transition to the next part of the song, and we start to find out about Ross's keyboard days and how he found the sound. So he decides to get the keyboard back out, and he plays some, and he plays at Central Perk, and it's terrible. But Phoebe is in awe. And whenever I watch this episode, I definitely go back and forth between thinking Phoebe was never in awe and this is just the route she was playing to get Ross to stop, or if she genuinely initially really appreciated his music. I'm completely torn. I feel like the latter is more likely, but every time I watch it I have a change of opinion. So if you have any thoughts on that, please feel free to let me know. This part was quite repetitive, but it is funny, so I can't really fault it too much. And then we have the part of the narrative that focuses on Chandler and Joey and Kathy. Joey is actually getting another woman's number, somebody called Casey, and actually the scene in Central Perk where Chandler tells Joey he has to choose between Casey and Kathy, and he tells her to pick Elaine, and Joey asks, who's Elaine? Every time I hear Elaine, as in A space Lane, my brain goes, who's Elaine? And I love it and hate it at the same time. But it's brilliant and very well done. Unfortunately, Joey is meant to be having dinner with Kathy. He's unable to. He's running late. He phones Chandler to tell him to tell her. And with nothing else to do, Chandler lets Kathy give him a haircut, which seems like a terrible idea. That's a very intimate action. And needless to say, they end up kissing. And Chandler feels so guilty that he buys everything for the apartment, which is great in two ways, because one, it furthers the story with Kathy, and I'll talk about that in a moment, but two, it gives them a reason to refurnish the apartment, having had all of their furniture stolen in a previous episode. It gives them an excuse for refurnishing the place, and I think that was a really smart idea. And of course, Chandler is doing this out of guilt, and Joey finds out. And quite rightly, he shouts at Chandler and gets angry at Chandler, and it's horrible to see. And he refuses to eat the bread that he made for Chandler specially. And honestly, it's horrible. The penultimate scene is Joey shouting at Chandler, and he walks off into his room, and that's it. And then we finish with Ross in Central Perk, and I don't mind that. But Chandler being shouted at by Joey is horrible. It's horrible to watch. It's horrible to listen to. I hate seeing Joey being hurt like this. One could argue, how could Joey even be that hurt if he was willing to date other women? He clearly didn't care that much about Kathy. And on the one hand, yes, I agree with that. But at the same time, you just do not kiss or make out with or do anything with your best friend's date or girlfriend, regardless of how they feel about her. If she's still in a relationship with your best friend, you don't go near her. And Chandler very much broke that rule. So I can't say any more than that until we get to the next episode. The next episode has some pretty great moments. I'll get there very soon. But for now, the one where Chandler crosses the line is a brilliant episode, some really good moments. Maybe not the most varied, but in general, I'm always going to enjoy this episode. Would love to have a concrete answer on whether it's Tony Tarzan or Tiny Tarzan, but it's still a really great episode.